the layout room, which is the third bay of my garage. First thing I want to do is apologize for taking so long between updates. I think the last update I had was probably 2 to 3 months ago, and as we all have experienced, life kind of gets in the way of the hobby sometimes. So I've got the camera positioned at a high level, so you can kind of get an overview of the layout. I started putting some of the tabletop pieces on, as you can see. It's masonite, and it's just nailed and attached with liquid nails as well as brads to hold it down. So what I have done so far is obviously what you can see here of the tops, and I've got actually I ran out of masonite, so I've got to go buy some more, but I thought in the meantime I would at least go ahead and do an update and let you kind of see where I am. So a couple of things that are different, and I'll show you this on a close-up here a little bit later. I had John Prescott go ahead and modify the length of this peninsula. I had him shorten it by a foot because down at that end where the bridge is, and I'll show you this again in a few minutes, there was only originally about 1.5 feet clearance between the end of the peninsula and the bridge, and you know, 1.5 feet is not enough for this to get through there. So I had them shorten it a foot, so now I've got right at 30 inches clearance between the end of the peninsula and the bridge. Some of the other things that I've taken a little bit of designer's license with, as far as the design, you know, when John designed it, he's got all these neat little curves and offsets, and you know, it looks great from the planning stage. But when you get to actually building it, you know, obviously 2x4s are straight and square, and they don't lend themselves, you know, at least without a lot of intricate cutting to fit those kind of shapes. So what I've done is, and I think I've talked about this before, down here at the end is a little bit different, as is over there at that corner. This piece right here is slightly different, but you know, in general terms, the layout is the same basic. It's the exact same size as the plan, but a few little tweaks and differences in all the little nooks and crannies here around the edge of the layout. So what I've got for you tonight is an update. Obviously this is what I've done, and I have following this the actual steps that I took to get this board cut and attached to the layout. So if you want to stay tuned for that, go ahead and do that. I'm going to get the camera here and take it down and talk a little bit about the plan. And I've also got some purchases that I've made over the last 3 or 4 months that I want to show you. So I'll get the camera down, we'll talk about the plan, I'll show you some of the stuff I bought, and then after that, if you just want to sign off, you can, or if you want to stay tuned for the construction piece, you can do that as well. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get the camera and we'll take a look at some of the changes. Okay, so this plan here is the original one, which John had drawn up for me. This is the revision. You can see here, I don't know if those grid lines are showing up, but there's about 2.5 grid lines between the edge of the peninsula and the bridge here. On the original plan, there was 1.5, which is about 18 inches of clearance. So I had them shorten this peninsula by a foot, just to give me some extra clearance in there. So that's the change in the plan. Everything else is the same. One other change is the removal of the car shop, because shifting the peninsula back you know, also made it come closer to the edge here. So right here, originally there was only a foot of clearance. I've changed this area to more closely resemble John's revised plan. So let's take a look at that. So Again, here's the edge of the peninsula as we come around. If you stay tuned for the construction piece of this, you'll see that this wasn't as easy as I had hoped. But anyway, right here on this side of the layout, which is where the car shops and such go, I've gone ahead now that I have the peninsula in. I know where the edge of this is going to be, so I could then put in this brace, which is right here. So I now have, between the peninsula and the edge of the layout here, it's right at 20 inches. So I'll have at least 20 inches, sometimes 2 feet down through the pathway here. So that's plenty enough for me. I'm happy with that change. So I'm going to go ahead and set out some things, some new purchases. They're kind of over here on the shelf. So we'll do that and then I'll come right back. All right, fellas and girls, this is kind of the stuff that I've purchased here over the past several months. And I guess that's one problem with not being able to have time to work on the layout. You end up buying more stuff. So let's kind of go down through here and take a look at this. This first item is a yard tower, which, you know, surprisingly, I found out that some antique stores have quite a bit of train stuff. Not all of it's HO, most of it's Lionel, but some of the things that I'll show you here I've actually found in antique stores and at really good prices. So this first one is the yard tower, which I found. So it's in really good shape. Second area here is a couple of Amtrak Superliner cars. And I've decided to go ahead and create an Amtrak passenger train as well. So those of you who have been with me for a while and watching my videos know that I have a California Zephyr train with the Western Pacific A and B locomotives. So I decided let's do an Amtrak one. I kind of like the Superliner cars. I'm going to use an F40PH as the power for this. So I've got these two right now. The first one, the sleeping car, found at the same antique store as the yard tower, and I think it was $7. So I'll have to change the couplers. It has the horn hook style on, as does the other one. The other one is a dining car. It's an eBay purchase. I think it was like $325 with about $7.25 shipping. So you know, around $10.50 for that one. Second to that, this is a Western Pacific F7B dummy, and I'm going to use it as in my California Zephyr. So I'll have an ABB set, which I understand is kind of how the California Zephyr, at least with the Western Pacific power, was run. Next to that is another purchase from the antique store. Those are some spine cars. They need some repair. There's a set of 5. There's 2 ends and 3 middles in there. I have to repair some of the trucks, but I think those were $15. Next to that, this is a train show purchase that was here in Nashville in the past couple of weeks. I've got a couple of pulpwood cars, and whoever did these did a really nice job on the loads. I think those are actually twigs that they have cut and put on there. So both of these are very nice. Got those for $5 a piece at the train show. Next to that, a couple of bulkhead flat cars with some lumber loads. Again, train show purchase. These cars were $10 each. So we've also got 5 containers here. These are the Walthers containers, and I purchased those along with this set of 48-foot well cars. And these are Concord, and I, you know, like some of you, was not aware that Concord actually made these, but here they are. So I got the set of 5 cars and the 5 containers for, I think, including shipping, about $38. So that was a good deal. Down here at the end are the 3 trailers that you see in the back are, and also the containers actually in the front, the 20-foot containers, and the doors open on those, so they're kind of cool. These were all, again, antique store purchases. The trailers need a little bit of repair. As you can see, that one on the left is kind of listing. I've got to fix the landing gear on that. Back up here, there is an Atlas GP38. This has DCC installed in it, factory DCC. I still have to put on the front and rear handrails and some of the other details that came with it. This is an eBay purchase. I think, including shipping, I'm thinking around 40 bucks. It's been a while, so I can't remember exactly. And then the last one, this auto carrier, was a train show back in February that I try to go to every year. And this was, I mean, it wasn't a really good deal on this. It's a Proto 2000 car. I think it was like 30 bucks, but you know, I liked it. And no, John Prescott, it's Illinois Central, and I'm not giving it to you. So I think that's about it for the purchases. There may be, you know, there's a few odds and ends that I've purchased. Well, we'll talk about that another time. I have a barn and also a foundation, a stone foundation that I've acquired. So I may have talked about that another time, but I can't remember. So enough about that, and we'll move on now. You can watch the construction section if you'd like. If not, you can end it here and wait for the next update. So again, thanks to everyone for sticking with me here over the years, and especially over the last few months where I haven't published many videos. I appreciate all the support and all the comments. So I guess that's it for now. Take care, fellas. Well, hello everyone. Here I'm back in the garage and about to start assembly of the layout. This has been a long time in coming. This summer has been very busy for me, as it has been for most of you, I'm sure. So what the plan is today is to start laying the top on the table. And I'm going to start down there in the corner next to the garage door and come up the left side of the wall here. That section of table is 14 inches wide and it's 8 feet long, right to this joint here. So I'm going to be cutting a piece of masonite, which is 14 by 96. I've also got a short piece in here from here down to that joint, which I think is right around 4 feet long. It's also 14 inches wide, but in order to try and save on material, when I cut that 8-foot piece out, I'll have 10 inches left over of my 24-inch wide piece, and I'm going to put it here because this is 9 inches wide and it runs down to this point, which if I remember correctly, that's about 7 feet. So I'm going to try and get that much at least out of my first piece, and then once I get the tabletop in down in the corner, I'll have to rearrange some of these boxes and so forth down there, and then I'll come ahead and put this one in here. So that's what I'm going to do first. I have to set up the table saw and get the pieces cut, and once I do, I will come back and show you how I attach. All right, so I've got the first section cut and positioned. I don't have it down yet. What I'm going to do is use liquid nails, which you can see sitting right there, to go ahead and put on top of the 2x4s, and then I'm going to use my nail gun with some 2-inch nails to hold it down. Again, the reason that I'm doing this in sections, you can see here, this one comes right to the end of the first 8-foot section. I know someday I'm going to have to take this layout apart and move it, because I don't really foresee us being in this house for the rest of our lives. So hence the reason for building it in sections. I did kind of forget about that here on the backdrop. You can see I've got a seam about halfway down that area there, down the length of that table, but the backdrop is just screwed on, so it'll come off when necessary. But anyway, it fits fairly snug here at the front. There are there's a bit of an overhang right here, but once I get everything tied down, I'll come back with my router with the flush cutting bit and take off that edge so it fits up nice and tight. You know, right now that's my plan. Depending upon how the router and masonite go together, that may or may not be a bad idea or a good idea. So what I may do is just you know, I'll do that on a test piece, see what it does. If it tears it up too much, I may just leave it, and then when I put the fascia on, I'll bring the fascia up flush with this, and then you'll never know that, you know, it's out like at 16th or whatever it is here. So let me go ahead and get this glued down. I've got the other 9-inch wide piece laying right there, which goes back here on this section. So I will get this tied down, and then we'll put the 9-inch wide piece in place. All right, so tabletop 1 is in. I've got all the stuff that was down here at the other end sitting on top of that. So that'll help hold that down until the liquid nails has a chance to dry. And so I'm going to skip this spot right here in the middle for right now, and I'm going to move down to this 9-inch wide piece, which goes in here. And it is, let's see, I'll hold the camera here with my other hand. Sorry about that, guys. So this section is 77 inches, more or less. Looks like a little bit less, maybe a 16th less than 77. So I'm going to cut that 9-inch wide piece to 77, and we'll fit it in here next. Alright, so down here on the end by the garage door, I'm putting in this piece, which is 2 feet wide by 72 inches long, and it's going to cover this table here. So I'm going to do that, and then once I finish this one, I'm going to go back to cutting masonite. I've got one more 4x8 sheet left, plus the remaining piece of this to use. So I'm going to go ahead and cut and fabricate and attach until I'm out of masonite, and then I think I'm going to call it a day. Again, I'm out in the garage, as obvious by the garage door right here. It's fairly cool in here compared to the outside world. I'm guessing it's probably, I don't know, maybe in the low to mid 80s inside the garage. You know, I was concerned about how hot it was going to be out here. But it's actually workable. Wintertime, it wasn't too bad. You know, I may need to put a space heater out here when I'm working in the winter. But, you know, outside today, I think the heat index is about 104, so I'm 20 degrees cooler. You know, it's like being in a swimming pool or something. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and I will come back and recap today's work. I'm going to cut right now the end of the peninsula, which, as we swing around to the plan, is this piece right here. I've got a maximum 24-inch radius around the outside of that curve, so I'm going to make this piece a 26-inch radius, so it'll give me some extra room on the outside of the track, so it won't actually be right up against the edge of the layout. So how I'm doing that, Derek, you'll love this. If you guys remember the Trammel that Derek and I used to draw our radiuses, or our radii if you're really into proper grammar, it was a device that, sorry about all the camera movement, I'm trying to hold a saw here and talk at the same time. It's not working out well. Alright, so that was made out of some yardsticks fastened together, and so what I've devised here as a method to cut the radius is I have bolted a yardstick to the bottom of my saber saw, and down here at this end you'll see there's a hole basically 1 inch from the end, and the distance between this hole and the edge of the blade is 26 inches. So I've got a 26-inch radius piece. I have a 4x8 sheet of masonite laid out here, and it's in a spot where I know I can swing the full circle and not hit anything. I've got the masonite just tacked to the bench work with some nails. And because of the way this is going to have to start out, I've got another piece of masonite in here just to keep the edge of the yardstick the same level as this masonite when I come across. So I'm going to attach this and show you how this is going to work. Okay, right, so I've got the yardstick screwed to the bench work. I've got my spacer in here, and out here is, you can see the saw blade, maybe, is at the edge of the masonite. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and if it works, I'll show you the end result. Sorry for all the... All right, so here's the end result of the radius cut. And unfortunately, my idea did not work. I think maybe for a couple of reasons. I think the saber saw blade I had may have been too short, and it was also fairly flexible.